Welcome back. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. I'm Rashida, and today I'm going to stick with my comfort food series and show you how to make a smothered steak dinner. Grab your apron, come on in the kitchen, and let's get ready to cook. For today's dish, I'm using cube steak, onions, flour, beef broth, olive oil, salt and pepper, and your favorite steak seasonings, or should I say my favorite steak seasonings. Very simple, just a couple ingredients are going to make a delicious dinner. To start off, I'm going to cut my cube steak into smaller pieces, basically making it easier to fit into the pan because I want to fit all of this into the pan, but I'm probably going to have to make 2 batches. But I'm cutting my cube steak down, and then I'm going to go ahead and season it and flour it. Now, if you're not familiar with cube steak, this is something my mother used to make when I was younger. Cube steak is basically like a round cut steak, and it looks like it's probably been hit with a mallet just to make it more tender, but it's a great steak, especially if you're making a smothered steak and you want to go over mashed potatoes or rice. Cube steak is a great steak to use for this dish. I'm adding salt and pepper, some of my favorite steak seasonings, of course some garlic powder, because you know I love garlic powder, and I'm using a blend of salt, pepper, garlic, some seasoning salt, and then a few other seasonings. I'm also seasoning the flour that I'm going to dredge my steak in, and just lightly season with a little bit of seasoning salt, and pepper, because you know we got to flavor from the bottom up. So if you want flavors to be in your food, in your meat, in your dish, you got to start at the bottom. So now I'm dredging the steak in the flour. And this will take a few minutes, and I'm dredge all the pieces. And the reason I'm doing this is going to add to the thickness of the gravy. And there's my steak all dredged up and ready to go into the hot oil. I'm using olive oil, but definitely canola oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil. Any of those oils can be used. I heat up my oil. That's about a 1/2 cup of oil. And I'm going to heat that up on a medium-high heat, probably for about 3 minutes, because I want it to be hot when I put the steak in. It's a little sizzle right there. Let me know it's hot enough. And I'm going to go ahead and add all my pieces. Let them cook for 2 to 3 minutes on each side. I'm just searing them. I'm not cooking them well because it continue to cook for about another half an hour. Right now, I just want to sear both sides of the steak. Okay, now that I've turned over the steak to the other side, you can see how it's just slightly brown on one side, and that's how it's going to look on the other. Then I'm going to remove it from the pan, set it to the side. I will remove a little bit of this oil and leave about 3 to 4 tablespoons of oil still in the pan. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and make the gravy. Add the meat, add the steak back in, and then I'm going to let it cook. All right, that's the removed steak right there. That's the first batch, and I'm on to the second batch, but I'll save you some time. That's the 3 to 4 tablespoons of oil I left in the pan, and the nice drippings that came off the meat. So that's flavoring, that's seasoning, that's going to go into the gravy. I want to add that's about a whole onion that I cut up. Cut up in nice big chunks because it's going to cook and it's going to simmer and they're going to soften. So the big chunks are just fine. And like I said, that's about a whole onion. So now I'm just sauteing my onion for about 2 minutes. And then I'm going to add 3 to 4 tablespoons of flour in with that. And that's the basis of any gravy. You want to have the same parts oil to flour, and you want to mix that and then add your liquids. So now I'm adding in my flour along with the onions. I'm going to stir those for a little while, for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then I'm going to pour in first. I'm pouring in a can of beef broth. It's about roughly 2 cups. Now I want to stir that a while to get the bland flavor off the flour. This is just bringing about, picking up the drippings and making it more flavorful. Then I'm going to add in my beef broth. At this point, I want to add some more seasonings, and basically they're the same seasonings that I added before. A little bit of seasoning salt, steak seasoning, garlic powder, and I'm going to stir that in. And then here comes the beef broth. Now, in addition to the beef broth, I'm going to add in a quarter cup of milk. And that's just going to make it a little richer, a little creamier. When making a gravy, it's always great to use a whisk if you have one, because that helps to get the lumps out, the flour, and just to make it smooth. At this point, I'm adding in that quarter cup of milk. Once again, just making the gravy rich, thick, and flavorful. And I'm going to combine these two, and I'm going to take the steak and I'm adding them back into the pan. Now both batches, I'm going to just add both batches into the gravy, because it's enough gravy to cover it all. And then I'm going to cook and simmer the steak in the gravy for about a half an hour, and just let it cook, tenderize, come together. And that's the smothered steak. It has been 30 minutes and my smothered steak looks great. You notice that I did take the top off a couple of times during the cooking process, just to stir it around and make sure it didn't stick to the bottom, that nothing stuck to the bottom, and then put the lid back on and continue to cook it. Just want to do this probably about 2 or 3 times during the cooking process. But right here is the perfect consistency. The smothered steak is ready. That's the way you want it to look. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it over some mashed potatoes. You can put it over rice. You can just add a green vegetable to it. It's a great comfort meal, great Sunday dinner. Hope you try it out. Thanks for coming to the kitchen. Thanks for cooking with me. Until the next time, have a blessed day and a blessed week. Take care.